During the next half hour, I will be introducing you to Alphachant Phonics for kindergarten. You'll need to have your Alphachant Teacher's Guide in front of you during this session. You might also want to have your National Geographic Reach Level A Teacher's Guide as a reference. If you need to retrieve these, you can pause the recording and then click to resume play when you have the materials in front of you. Alphachant Phonics for kindergarten sparks phonemic awareness and introduces letters and sounds with interactive and engaging materials that provide systematic and sequential instruction so that your young English learners can begin reading words. The Alphachant Phonics Kit provides comprehensive, systematic, and explicit instruction with built-in support for your English learners. Our goal for today is to familiarize you with Alphachant and how this program can be used along with Reach Level A. Specifically, we'll learn how to use Alphachant's components and materials, follow Alphachant's lesson path for phonemic awareness and phonics instruction, use Alphachant's assessment tools to monitor students' progress and mastery, and use Alphachant to support your NG Reach Level A instruction with kindergarten students. The Alphachant Kit provides comprehensive, systematic, and explicit phonics instruction with built-in support for your English learners. There are many fun and engaging chants and activities that develop important foundational skills in phonemic awareness, phonics, spelling, handwriting, and also many assessment tools that help you track your students' progress. Alphachant works right along with National Geographic Reach to build young students' phonics skills as they develop their language, vocabulary, reading, and writing skills at the kindergarten level with Reach Level A. Today's session will show you how to use Alphachant as a standalone program and also how to integrate it into your Reach instruction. Let's take a look at the components of Alphachant. Of course, there's a very useful teacher's guide that has specific activities and thumbnails of all the materials that you'll need to get started. There are 26 large format interactive books and CDs to share with the entire class to build phonemic awareness and introduce letters and sounds. We call them LAP books. There is also a Let's Read Big book specifically designed to teach and model decoding strategies. This is also used for whole group skills practice. There are read-alone phonics stories. Your students make 18 phonics storybooks to apply their skills with decodable text. These are books that children can tear out, fold up, and take home to enjoy again and again. There are phonics picture cards, 189 double-sided cards for practice and reinforcement. There's a photograph and label on one side and just the photograph on the other side. There's also a fun finger puppet that is used for phonemic awareness activities. You'll also have a skills practice masters that include blackline masters for phonics, spelling, handwriting, and take-home books. You'll want to take some time after this session to familiarize yourself with all of these materials. But for now, let's take a look at Alphachant's lesson path. It's a simple 4-step process. You'll see how easy it is to use this program and how fun it is for your students. If you have your teacher's guide in front of you or the teacher's guide sampler, you can look at page T6 and T7. There are 4 consistent steps to introduce and practice letters and sounds. Each uses different components. Step 1 is listen and chant. You'll use the chants to develop oral vocabulary and build phonemic awareness. Children learn English sounds and rhythms as they listen and chant. Step 2 is to learn letter names, sounds, and formations. You'll use the teaching pages in the Alphachant lap book for direct instruction in letters and sounds. Traceable letters on the back cover, facilitate handwriting instruction. Step 3 is where students learn to blend and decode words. There's lots of hands-on practice and systematic instruction in decoding strategies to help your students build a strong foundation for reading. Finally, Step 4 encourages students to apply their skills with decodable text. We read stories to apply in connected text. Now, we're going to go through each step in more detail. Step 1 is where students listen and chant. You'll use the lap books with the chants to develop oral vocabulary and build phonemic awareness. Your students will learn English sounds and rhythms as they listen and chant. Plus, they have a lot of fun. You'll develop oral vocabulary and build phonemic awareness. Step 2 is where students learn letter names, sounds, and formations. For some reason, I'm sorry, this is not clicking through. There we go. Step 3 is where students will build their foundation for reading. There's systematic instruction in decoding strategies and hands-on practice. Step 4 is where students apply their skills with decodable text. These are where the read-along alone stories come in. There's recurring characters that help students remember and make sense with the words. And there's lots of built-in support for English learners. Let's take a quick look at the table of contents in your teacher's guide. It's up front. We'll go through each of the elements included in these lessons. But for now, let's take a look at the Phonics lessons box. This shows you the scope and sequence for the way the letters and sounds are introduced. It's easy to see the order in which each consonant and short vowel are introduced. The higher utility consonants are introduced first, for example, M, S, F, H, and T. Vowels are always introduced in the initial position, followed by a lesson that builds decoding skills with short vowels in the medial position. The sequence of initial sound, letter lessons, and decoding lessons remains consistent throughout the entire Alphachant program. So once you learn the lesson flow, you will be able to teach all of the lessons with ease. In terms of placement, when it's time to begin instruction in English phonics, there is a placement test, which we'll talk about later, that will help you determine where to start with your students if you don't want to start at the beginning. Now, I bet you're wondering, how do I fit Alphachant instruction into the lessons in National Geographic Reach Level A? Alphachant works in tandem with Reach to help your students develop key phonics skills that they will need to read in English. Let's look at the unit planner. This one is for Unit 3, Part 2. You'll see that the specific planning information is provided for you across the bottom of the pages, so you can see the progression of skills and activities within each unit section. Or you can look at it day by day to get a sense of what phonics instruction goes along with the language, vocabulary, and stories and songs and writing instruction you'll be doing. Alphachant specific lessons and pages are provided for each day up in the lesson plan or in the daily planner, but also in the day-by-day lesson plans. For example, this is Day 3 lesson plans, and you can see that it's identified in the resources and also in the lesson flow. Now let's take a look at Lesson 11, which if you're using your teacher's guide is on T62 through T69. This is an initial consonant lesson, and of course, it follows the 4-step lesson path that we just reviewed. Let's work ourselves through this lesson. Alphachant always provides you the objectives up on the upper left-hand corner of a lesson page. Additionally, the specific materials you need are always listed next to the portion of the lesson in which they are used. Remember step 1, listen and chant? Well, this is where we get going with that in terms of introducing the letter and sound for G, G. We're going to preview vocabulary using the lap book. Then we're going to listen and chant. The chant is listed. It's also in the book. And you're going to preview words that have that sound before you use the chant. Then you're going to recite the chant. The garden gate is open. The goat goes in the gate. The goose goes in the gate. The gorilla goes in the gate, but he's too late. So you can see how it's nice and rhythmic, and kids will get interested in it, and it's kind of fun. Next, we build phonological awareness with consonants. When we move into vowels, we'll build phonemic awareness. This is step 2 of our lesson path, where we learn names, sounds, and formation for letters. In addition to the finger puppet that comes with the kit, you will need 3 blocks to gather 3 blocks for each student, and I'm sure you have plenty of those in your classroom. There are many activities with materials that you'll find and common materials in your classroom. So you're going to have students use this to complete the activity, and you'll notice recurring kinesthetic connections, touching the blocks while saying and hearing a sound. In this lesson, we'll practice isolating initial and final sounds and then blending onsets and rhymes. We'll use the finger puppet to model those activities. With Alphachant lessons, you will practice a variety of phonological and phonemic awareness tasks. Let's take a look at the many different tasks that are included in this program. And these will vary from lesson to lesson, but the process will always be the same. Now, let's move on to connecting the sound with the letter. So in addition to the lap book, you'll be using phonics picture cards and letter cards when students practice. And there's also a Skills Master page that you can use. Now, students will learn how to write the letters G, capital and lowercase. On the back cover of the Alphachant lap book, you'll see traceable letters that help you describe how to form the capital and lowercase letters. In addition to the lap book, you'll use the phonics picture cards and letter cards when students practice. And then to continue practicing, students can complete a Skills Practice Master and a take-home book that's in your Skills Practice Master book. Then students build words and blend sounds using the new letter and ones that they have learned earlier in the program. Each student uses a word pocket from your classroom and letter cards to practice blending sounds and spelling words with short vowels. So you will model and guide students through a step-by-step process so that the skills build upon each other, and everyone stays engaged. You can see how map and tap and tag, you're just swapping out letters but keeping the same sequence of sounds. Then you can have students continue the word work with a draw and write activity by drawing a picture and writing the word for it. Now we read the story and write words. This activity uses the Read Alone Phonics Story take-home book. You may have these for each of your students so that they can take the stories home to practice their skills. Or you might just have one book per in the kit that you can tear out and use in the classroom for practice. These stories are fun and engaging for students as they practice the sounds and words in context. You can see how they are colorful and simple, but also decodable. At the end of the lesson, there's a quick progress check for you to monitor your students' progress on the letters and sounds that you have recently introduced. These are a great informal way to track which students are ready to move on and which students might need a bit more practice. Now we're going to move into blending and decoding lessons. At the beginning of each blending and decoding section, you will find a progress test. There are 5 of these. The decoding lessons teach blending and decoding of short vowel words. In this example, it's the sound for short E. And it uses all of the consonants that have been taught to date. You'll use this progress test to help you determine which students are phonemically aware and have sufficient letter sound knowledge to be able to decode simple words. We don't want to frustrate our young students, so we can use one of these 5 progress tests that come before each of the lessons that focus on blending and decoding to make sure that students are ready for the following lesson. The letter sheets that are mentioned here are found in the back of the book with all the assessment tools. We'll talk about those more later. When we get into the decoding lessons, we again use a chant. We will listen and chant. This one is using the short E words. I say egg, I say set, I say peg, and I say met. They're simple. Then you'll use the hand puppet to work on phonemic awareness. First you will blend sounds and then count the sounds in a word. Again, students will use gestures, which adds that kinesthetic piece in to help them work with sounds. And the hand puppet is always fun for them, and you. After we build phonemic awareness, students learn to decode simple words that use the sounds and letters they already know. As always, Alphachant provides specific information about which materials you will need. In this case, it's the Let's Read Big Book and your classroom magnetic board and letters. First, students learn a decoding strategy, in this case connecting the medial short E sound and the letter E. You use the Big Book to model the strategy. Then you use magnetic letters to blend words and give students interactive practice with the strategy and individual words. So you're teaching, you're modeling, you're helping students practice, and then you're having them apply. Now we'll decode words in context. And this is important because we also want students to check for meaning and learn how to check for meaning. Does it make sense? This word says leg. What's the arrow pointing to? The dog's leg. So we're teaching meaning along with the decoding. With all of the decoding lessons, you'll find a very helpful feature called Meeting Individual Needs. These great suggestions for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic practice are wonderful for you to use with students to make sure that all of our students gain access to the important decoding skills and help you know when and how to differentiate instruction to meet the individual needs in your classroom. Then, when we move into reading and writing, we put the decoding skills into practice. We have them read a story in the Let's Read Big Book. To introduce the story, you'll use typical guided reading practices, previewing, asking students to predict what might happen. Then you will model and have students respond to decode the text and read the entire story. Now we move to the board or an easel and practice interactive writing. This is a great opportunity for your students to build their skills with the letters and sounds that they have learned. That's the sequence of lessons. Now, once you've gone through the entire book, there are in the back, which is what we're going to look at now on pages T214 and T215, there's a section called Extra Practice and Assessment. Sometimes your students might need extra practice in either phonemic awareness or in letters and sounds. There are many suggestions back here for fun activities, and each time the materials and specific actions that you'll need to do are right there for you. For example, if students need more work segmenting words into sounds, you can use chips and a grid box. Now let's take a look at the back of your teacher's guide, assessment tools. You'll find many different assessment tools that will help you monitor and check your students' progress. There are phonological and phonemic awareness assessments. You will notice that there is always a student profile sheet to help you summarize how each student performs, and a class profile sheet to help you summarize how your entire class performs on each of the objectives. And this is very helpful if you're trying to form groups for reteaching or for challenging activities. There's a letter sounds assessment. You can also use this particular assessment as a placement test to help you determine what letters and sounds your students already know, or to help you design groups and inform your instruction. The progress tests, we already talked about. The progress checks the progress checks and progress tests we have already discussed in context where they come. The progress checks are the simple little check mark boxes that come at the end of some of the lessons. And the progress tests come right before the decoding and blending lessons. And we talked about each of those. Finally, there is a post-test that gives you an idea and helps you understand and make sure that your students have mastered all of the letters and sounds and skills in the Alphachant program. Let's revisit Alphachant and National Geographic Reach. Remember, if you're using Alphachant with Reach Level A, the specific lessons and activities are listed along the bottom of your unit planner, daily planner pages, and also in the daily lesson plans. The specific lessons and pages and skills are listed right there for you up in the daily planner, unit planner, but also in the daily lesson plans. We have covered a lot in the last half hour. Let's revisit our session outcomes for today. By now, you should feel ready to use Alphachant's components and materials, although I do hope that you will spend some time interacting with them and familiarizing yourself with them before you use them with your students. You should feel ready to follow the lesson path. Remember the 4-step lesson path for phonemic awareness and phonics instruction. We went through each of the steps in detail to learn how you use the lessons for introducing and practicing consonants and short vowel sounds and blending and decoding. We also spent some time learning about the assessment tools that you have to monitor your students' progress and mastery. There are things that are embedded within the lesson pages, the progress checks and progress test, and then there are also specific assessments at the end that you can use. We've also discussed how you can use Alphachant to support your National Geographic Reach Level A instruction for your kindergarten English learners. So, for now, I'd like to thank you for participating in this Alphachant webinar. I wish you great success and lots of fun when you're using this program with your students. Thank you.